Hey everybody, good evening. How y'all doing? So I'm here tonight because I want to talk about Ethan Crumbley. He is the mass shooter that killed four students at Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan. Um, I want to talk about what's going on a little bit more in his case. Right now, he just had his Miller hearing, and I wanted to talk about what the Miller hearing was or is, and to just filter out some of the things that occurred at his hearing. The prosecutor is able to put on um, any witnesses that they want to use to demonstrate that the person should receive life without parole. There is no death penalty in the state of Michigan. So that's something that they have to show when there's a juvenile. And this comes directly from the case of Miller versus Alabama. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're also going to talk about some some interesting things that came out in his hearing. There's um, there's been some more journal entries uh, that Mr. Crumley wrote. So I want to talk about that. And then I'm thinking about doing a separate video for his parents. They just went and had a hearing recently um, about the merits of them being charged with manslaughter, even though they did not, of course, commit those murders. Their son, Ethan Crumbley, did. So I think I'm going to do that separately because those are kind of separate issues. But let's get started. So I want to talk a little bit about the Miller hearing and what it means first. So that'll be our foundation for our whole conversation today. So, and I've shared this on my Facebook page, so you can refer to that or just listen if you don't want to follow along. Miller versus Alabama, that's 567 US 460, 2012. It was a United States Supreme Court case in which the court held that mandatory sentencing of life without the possibility of parole are unconstitutional for juvenile offenders. The ruling applied even to those persons who had committed murder as a juvenile, extending beyond Graham versus Florida 2010, which had ruled juvenile life without parole sentences unconstitutional for crimes excluding murder. So let's talk about a little bit of the background information that's known. The decision of the court was based on two consolidated cases, Jackson versus Hobbs, number 10-9647, and Miller versus Alabama, number 10-9646. The Los Angeles Times wrote, in one case that came before the court, Contrell Jackson was 14 in November on November 18, 1999, when he and two other teenagers went to a video store in Arkansas planning to rob it. He stayed outside and one of the youths pulled a gun and killed the store clerk. Jackson had waited outside the store for a time, but entered shortly before Derek Shields shot the store clerk. There is debate as to whether he told the clerk, "We ain't playing," or whether he said to his accomplices, "I thought you all was playing." Jackson was not the shooter. Jackson was charged as an adult and given a life term with no parole. In the second case, Evan Miller, a 14-year-old from Alabama, was convicted of a July 15, 2003 murder after he and another boy set fire to a trailer where they had bought drugs from a neighbor. Miller committed homicide in the act of robbing his neighbor, Cole Cannon. Cannon had fallen asleep after he, Miller, and Miller's friend, Kobe Smith, had indulged in alcohol and marijuana. Cannon awoke as Miller was replacing Cannon's wallet, and Smith hit Cannon with a baseball bat. Miller took up the bat and proceeded to severely beat Cannon. Smith and Miller later returned to destroy the evidence of what they had done by setting fire to Cannon's trailer. Cannon died of severe injuries and smoke inhalation. On October 20th, 2006, Miller was given a life term with no parole, while Smith received life with parole on October 27th, 2006. Okay, so let's kind of connect this to what's happening with Ethan Crumbley. So back in late July, Ethan Crumbley had his Miller hearing, and the prosecutor defense can put on evidence and witnesses. The prosecution would be putting on witnesses and evidence to demonstrate that he should get life without parole. And then the defense would have the alternative opinion, and they would want to see life with parole. And that could include some mitigating circumstances. One could be mental health, one could be age. They would try to demonstrate in some way that there's some type of redeeming factor in him, that he should get parole at some point. So let's go and refer. What I was just reading was from Wikipedia, so you can pick that up if you like. I didn't share the whole article. I just wanted to give you that foundational background. But we're going to read the article. It is dated August 1st, 2023, from the Detroit Free Press. The name of the article is Videos of Ethan Crumbley Breaking Down, Crying in Jail, Shown During Final Day of Hearing. So I will begin to read. You can follow along, or you can just listen. Okay. A hearing to help determine Ethan Crumbley's sentence for murdering 4 fellow students and injuring 7 other people at Oxford High School in November 2021 took yet another dramatic turn Tuesday as Crumbley's lawyer showed a video of Crumbley in jail, breaking down, crying, and yelling, "Why didn't you stop it, God? Why didn't you stop it when it happened? I'm sorry, God." What we just witnessed someone saying, "God, why didn't you stop it?" That's exactly how psychosis works, testifies psychologist Colin King. Somehow you don't understand the outcome of the consequences. He's having a panic attack and a break with reality. Crumbley's lawyer, Paulette Lofton, showed multiple videos, including body cam footage of Crumbley in jail crying out in distress. In the footage, in several instances, he's strapped to a chair. In one case, a hood covered his face. Oakland County deputies said Tuesday that the hood is used to protect jail workers from spit. Okay. I don't know if I can let this pass. The fact that Crumbley is crying out or demonstrating frustration or upset, it does not surprise me. I think that when a lot of people do things, not just criminal things, no one's looking at the long-term effects. No one's looking at how long is it going to take to get out of something that you get into, or what is the cost. Now, I know in his journal, he wrote a lot of times that he was going to face life in prison, and that was something that he was aware of. But now the reality is starting to set in. not just the idea that this is happening the day in and day out. Every aspect of his life has really changed. He's away from his parents. He's out of the home. He doesn't attend school. He doesn't see his friends, whatever friends he have, whatever semblance of a normalcy. Getting up every day, having a bedroom, having freedom, freedom to get up, to go outside, to play, to talk on the phone. All of these normal activities that he probably took for granted, he doesn't have anymore in prison. He doesn't have any privacy. He's alone probably most of his day. He's getting these meals that are prepared that probably aren't, nourishing or things that he enjoys. He's not getting snacks. He doesn't have the ability to go to the store, pick and choose what he wants. All of these are consequences. The thing is that when people do things like this heinous, and they survive, like he pretty much surrendered. He did not want to be harmed. He did not want to be unalive. So he's thinking of this as, well, this is the natural course of going to prison. But he did not consider all of the changes in every aspect of his life. Not even being treated as a kid. Now you're being tried as an adult, but you're also in prison with adults. Now they separated him, so he's going to have some protection there. He's not going to be with the juveniles. He's in an adult prison, but he's separated. But that also causes other problems. So how are you going to interact? You're not probably eating with adult prisoners. You're not working out with adult prisoners. You're not going outside with adult prisoners. You're not having those normal interactions. And because you're not safe enough, the level of the crime is so heinous, you can't be around youth, offenders that are your age, or people that are waiting to go to court. You can't be around them either. So you're kind of in a catch-22. You can't be around adults, but it's not safe to have you around the population of youth, underage, juveniles. So this is his new reality. And I'm sure he is crying out. He is asking God. But this was his choice, and his choice alone, through his free will. Everything he did, he set in motion. And some choices you don't get out of easily. You can't change. Nothing's gonna no way is he going to be able to alter what happened that day. The only thing he can do now is move forward in a way. If he's thinking about change, this doesn't sound like change. This just sounds like frustration, because everything in his life has changed, and it's not good changes. Nothing that's happening to him now is things that he probably even thought of or anticipated. I know he had the idea of going to prison, of spending some major time there, but I don't think he thought about the payment back, the debt, the long term of being in prison for a long period of time. I don't think he considered that at all. And a lot of people don't, especially because this was premeditated. So he had a chance to think about, well, what's an alternative, And when the day he did it, his family was told to get him counseling within 48 hours. So he would have more than likely received some help if he was having some mental health issues, because that's something that the school required, was for him to get into some counseling, some therapy. So let's just keep going with this. In another video, Crumbley says over and over, he didn't stop it and you didn't stop it. While the videos were shown in court, Crumbley kept his eyes shut. The issue to be decided from the hearing. Well, let me pause. I don't take any pleasure out of saying this, but this is signs of youth. At this hearing, where the judge is hearing both the prosecutor and the defense, this is an important hearing. This is the foundation to if this is going to lead to either life with parole or life without parole. And when they're showing videos of his emotions, things that he has said and done that they have, he closes his eyes. This shows you the age of um, his mindset. Even though he's being charged as an adult, the behavior, the inability to even be able to stand in what he did, what he said he felt, all the anger he said he felt, the anger at wanting to hurt people. In reality, it's just something from within that you're not happy with yourself. This has nothing to do with those kids that were hurt. It could have been anybody, honestly. Um, Unless he had a list, which they haven't said that, like a targeted list of people to hurt, he would have hurt anybody that he had the ability to in that time. He probably his most of his goals, and I believe I have some of the notes that said he wanted to just hurt as many people as he could, but we'll talk about that. So let's keep going. While the videos were shown in court, Crumbley kept his eyes shut. The issue to be decided from the hearing is whether Crumbley is eligible to be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, or whether he will be eligible for release one day. The hearing adjourned Tuesday afternoon with one more witness to be heard on August 18th. Oakland County Circuit Judge Kwame Rowe is expected to issue a written ruling shortly after the hearing and will schedule formal sentencing after that. King is an expert in mental health and brain injuries who has testified in about 25 juvenile lifer cases. He testified that a combination of childhood trauma, neglectful and abusive parents, a lack of acknowledgement by the school system, and mental health issues led to the events on November 30th, 2021. So where's the accountability for Mr. Crumbley? Even if he had some difficulties, a lot of people have childhood trauma. A lot of parents maybe did their best. I'm not saying that that's what his parents did, but maybe there were instances where, there may have been some neglect, but people aren't going out. And when I say people, we can stick to just juveniles, youth, teenagers. They're not going out and they're not committing a mass shooting. So, with that being said, as far as my opinion, I think there has to be some accountability. Also, that this is something that he wanted to do. Yes, did he have probably some mental issues that were concerning? Definitely about hurting the birds that he said he did, and he took video of that. Also, with his parents not consistently being there and being responsive. At his age, 15, some parents may loosen the reins a little bit and give them more responsibility. But could they have done a better job? Absolutely. Giving more guidance and physically being there more, especially when he was asking for that. But I think the school system, I think they probably could have done a little bit of a better job just when he was completing the work and putting the violence in his writings on paper during the class time. I think they could have identified that better, maybe handled it differently, maybe referring him to some mental health services the first time, not letting it be multiple times, especially because what he was drawing was violent. But I think there has to be some accountability for him also. I think also the parents getting him a weapon at his age and just not being appropriate as a gift for him, especially with his mindset and his behaviors. And maybe they didn't see everything, but from the exchanges that have been reported with the text messages and what they knew was happening at the school as far as the violent drawings, it does not seem like that was a good idea at all. Okay, let's keep going. Crumbley couldn't make sense of what was happening to him mentally and had no one to turn to for help, King testified. Well, he did turn to some people, but it wasn't for help. He had got, they had some text exchanges where he was talking to people about his feelings and what he was doing and being more open and honest, if those are truthful things that he was saying. But it wasn't in a positive way to receive help. When he was at school, the day it happened, I believe that meeting was with him, his parents, and a mental health counselor. He could have asked for help then, when the school recommended that he get some therapy, some counseling. He could have said he needed help then, before the shooting happened, but he didn't. So at 15, you have to take accountability, because you have a full understanding, especially the planning. And we'll talk about that a little bit too, but definitely with the planning and things like that. So let's continue. Why didn't you stop it, God? Why didn't you stop it when it happened? I'm sorry, God. King spent more than 22 hours over 6 sessions with Crumbley about a year after the shooting. He said producing a 70-page report on the teenager, reviewed by sociologist Malcolm Court. King review examined Crumbley's childhood, the influence of his parents, Oxford's school system, and the events leading up to the shooting, including the death of Crumbley's dog. The teen, he said, was the one who had to dispose of the animal. According to King, Crumbley has a major depressive disorder with psychosis, anxiety, and features of obsessive compulsive disorder. He is mentally ill, King said, but he stressed he is absolutely capable of rehabilitation, noting that the brain has the ability to generate new pathways. For example, he said, stroke victims can learn how to walk and talk again. Ethan's brain is still maturing and will not reach full maturity for another 10 years, King testified. King also discussed the phenomenon of the feral child in reference to Crumbley, defining a feral child as someone isolated from others, turning into a misfit of society with a lack of social cues. Psychologically and socially, he can be considered a feral child, King testified. King described the influence of Crumbley's parents as a litany of horrible abuse. James and Jennifer Crumbley are charged with involuntary manslaughter, the first parents in America to be criminally charged in a school shooting. Their appeal to have the charges struck down is pending before the Michigan Supreme Court. And I said I'll probably discuss that in a separate video about his parents. King also testified about Crumbley's obsession with torturing and killing baby birds. Prosecutors show a video Crumbley made of himself unaliving a bird and text messages to a friend about wanting to do it again. He wanted them to feel the pain that he was feeling inside, King said. He was actually speaking to them in a different tone of voice, almost as a parent talking to a child, almost a reflection of his mental impairment. King's testimony also touched on Crumbley's backpack, which was never checked at school on the morning of the shooting, and that Crumbley expected that it would be. Crumbley and his parents were called to the office shortly before the rampage over disturbing drawings and writings that a teacher reported. Crumbley explained to King that after he was called down to his office, he left his backpack in his classroom, and then a school administrator went to retrieve his backpack. Now, it was some testimony that the administrator that went to get the backpack out of class said that the backpack was heavy, but he did not look inside the backpack. Ethan's parents did not look inside the backpack, and no other school official looked inside the backpack, and the backpack contained the gun that was used for the shooting, the gun that his parents had purchased. Crumbley said for the first time in his life, he felt relieved and he just knew the sheriffs were going to bust into the office and arrest him. King testified, excuse me, noting Crumbley reminded him of a student who was accused of using and remembered school officials searching his locker. He felt fairly sure that they were going to search his backpack, King testified before suggesting the school administrator mishandled the situation. All he had to do was unzip that backpack, but he didn't. I want to hear about the accountability for Mr. Crumbley. I'm sorry. A video of Crumbley collapsing in a diner in 2020, 1 year before the shooting, was shown in court Tuesday morning, suggesting that the boy may have suffered a brain injury. He collapsed on a tile floor and could not get up on his own, according to a psychologist's testimony. The parents told the diner owner not to call 911, King testified. Crumbley also disclosed to the psychologist that he was once out with his parents picking strawberries and he fell. All that he remembers was regaining consciousness. He asked his parents what happened. Crumbley told King that his parents said he suffered a blow to the head. He was not taken to a hospital. Much of the psychologist's testimony has focused on Crumbley's parents and how he said they did not get him help when he needed it. What stood out to me was that he told his parents that he was hearing voices and that he needed to see a therapist, King testified, and it never happened. And I think that's also why the parents were charged, because they did not intervene and try to get him some help and services. King also testified that there seemed to be discord between the parents. There were frequent harsh discussions about infidelity, unaliving yourself, in which parent Ethan needed to choose an event that they separated, King testified. There was constantly family discord and dysfunction. There was no indication that he was ever taken to a doctor, King testified. The morning began with testimony about Crumbley's childhood and how he was left alone often, starting when he was 6 years old. According to King, Crumbley at the age of 6 would wander to neighbors' homes when there was a thunderstorm, tell them he was afraid, and would ask for help. King also testified about text messages he reviewed from Crumbley to his mom when he was 10 years old. He would be home alone and text her, but she would not respond. He testified, I saw that as early as age 10, even age 6, there were some issues, King testified. In my interviews, he explained that he spent countless hours watching various adult games, he testified. He also spent an inordinate amount of time going to websites with graphic scenes. He began to fantasize being part of those scenes. During cross-examination by the prosecution, King defended his conclusions that Crumbley suffers from mental illness and disclosed more troubling childhood behavior by Crumbley. Ethan said that at age 6, he went up to a preschool worker and said, wouldn't it be cool if cars can just crash into this school and unalive a lot of people, King said. King disclosed this incident while explaining why he disagreed with another expert's report that Crumbley did not suffer from mental illness. If someone tells you I'm seeing things, there's a demon in my house, that's mental illness. Mental illness is real, King said. The prosecutors pressed King to concede that there was no indication that Crumbley engaged in unusual behavior that would be typical of psychosis in or around the shooting. King responded, we saw the video from the night before referring to Crumbley's rant about troubles in the world and how he needed to teach people a lesson with his shooting spree. We listened to him saying, I am the demon. For someone to verbalize that tells me that person has a serious disorder. The prosecutor challenged much of King's testimony as part of a broader effort to show, as the prosecutor believes, that Crumbley was not insane at the time of the shooting and knew right from wrong. Prior to Crumbley pleading guilty, experts found Crumbley to be competent and not criminally insane. The defense then dropped its plan to pursue an insanity defense. The prosecution also grilled King about Crumbley's behavior after he carried out the shooting and surrendered, noting he didn't mention demons or delusions, followed commands, and behaved in a coherent manner. So they're saying that at the time of the incident, that Ethan Crumbley did not appear to have any delusions. He was coherent. He surrendered. He followed commands. That he didn't have any issues at that time. King responded, the entire courtroom watched 5 videos of Ethan Crumbley in psychosis. But that wasn't at the time of the shooting, the prosecutor said, noting the video of Crumbley saying sorry and pleading to God was after the shooting while he was in jail. King testified that he believes Crumbley was showing remorse. Ethan is slowly coming to grips with what he did, and he is expressing extreme sorrow, King said, adding that by asking why God allowed the shooting to take place, even though he himself carried it out, that's a break from reality. As I said before, all of his reality, everything that he's used to, all the comforts of home, of family, of mom, of dad, of the consistency of life, all of that has changed for him. He's not going to be in the same boat. He's not going to have the same structure. He has to create a new way of living, a new way of doing things, because the way that he's doing things now is changed. His whole day is planned before him. When he gets up, when he eats, what time he has to go to bed, the time the lights turn off, if he has opportunity to go and exercise, every aspect of his life, he is on a time clock, and somebody is directing him what he can do, what time he can do it. So a lot of things have changed for him. And this is where the sorrow and the regret is coming from. It does not appear that it's coming from his actual actions of committing this mass shooting. That's the unfortunate part. And how do you get the rehabilitation there if a person even isn't taking responsibility, one, and then two, the regret and sorrow they have is not for the victim's family, the community, the ripple effect that has happened, the fear, the grief is not for any of that. It's really for himself. That's the unfortunate part of all of this. It's really sad. So let's keep going. Okay. The hearing is mandated by a 2012 U.S. Supreme Court ruling in Miller v. Alabama that juvenile murderers may not be automatically sentenced to life without parole without a hearing. The hearings, such as Crumbley's, are called Miller hearings. Okay. The first 2 days of the hearing last week were deeply emotional and disturbing, with law enforcement officers describing the pain of walking past wounded students in their mission to find Crumbley. Survivors telling about trying to save students, a teacher describing being shot in the arm, and a student testifying about being face to face with Crumbley and witnessing him unaliving his last victim. So the Miller hearing is essentially set up to where the judge is going to hear both sides to make a determination if he's supposed to receive either the ability to have parole later or life with no parole. So that's essentially what the Miller hearing is. So something else that I want to go over a little bit, on my Facebook page, I've shared some of the additional journal hearings. So part of the case, there was some journal hearings released, but the Miller hearing has allowed for more journal entries to be released that Ethan Crumbley wrote from his journal. So I just want to go over a few of them. I'm not going to go over all of them. I just want to capture some of them and just discuss, because I want everyone to kind of understand the mindset of what was going on, his thoughts. You know, when you're thinking like this, you're not consulting with family or friends or someone's close, or they may have the same mindset as you, but there's really not anybody that's saying, no, don't do this, or, you know, why are you thinking like this, or do you need help, do you need support? He's not getting that. So let's just go over a few of these. So one of them, I might have to change some of the words so that, you know, the video can stay up. But unaliving myself is too much of a weak person's thing to do. People will just forget about me, and I will never something an impact in this world. The only way is to shoot up the school. So I had to rephrase some of his words, but from what I'm gleaning from reading this, he says that unaliving himself is something that a weak person would do. I disagree with that. What I feel a weak person would do is going in to a situation where you have the upper hand and you take advantage of innocent people. Now, granted, these are your classmates, these are students that also attend school, that are vulnerable, have no way to respond, that not even aware of what you're going to do. That's a weak person's thing to do. And you're saying that this is the only way for you to have an impact in the world is to do something negative like this. So you don't want to work hard, you don't want to put in any effort, you don't want to apply yourself, you don't want to create something, invent something, do some kind of work, contribute to society. You just want to go in and have a few moments and harm people, destroy families, destroy their life, their future, take that from them, as many as you can. That's what a weak person does. That's what a selfish person does. That's what a coward does. So I totally disagree with this. Okay, let's go to another one. There was also another comment in his journal. It says the news for a couple of weeks. Oh no, I'm going to unalive many people for no sole reason. I'm going to rain fire down on this school. I will cause the biggest school shooting in Michigan history. I will unalive everyone I see. So that kind of goes to Ethan Crumbley's motivation. He didn't want to just do a shooting. He wanted to have it solidified in history for the state of Michigan that this is the biggest one. And this was the first mass shooting in the state of Michigan. So he wanted to have a large death number. So his intention was to hurt as many people as he could. And he's clearly writing that. So his thought process is clear. His intentions are clear. Okay, let's go to another journal entry. This one is it's pretty disturbing. So I might have to change some words. I just saw a group of girls sitting down in the hallway. If I had my pistol, some of the words can't really understand. And it might be with me, then I would have not hesitated to blow both their brains out. I would just hope their parents will feel with sadness and distraught. I apologize. He's not spelling words correctly. So I'm trying to figure out what he's writing. The words are incorrectly spelled. He could have spent more time in school focusing on class, learning his lesson, learning how to spell, picking up a dictionary, um, preparing his sentence structure, while he's focusing on this negative mess. He could have focused on his education because he clearly cannot put sentences together and spell words correctly. But I'm going to try to dissect it as best I can. When I shoot up the school, I hope that every parent of kids I something unalive will be so sad that they will unalive themselves. I want all of America to see the darkness in me and hate me. I want to impact the world with this. I'm going to record the shooting so when they show the video in court, everyone can see their children and friends passing away. I want for the parents to see their kids born to ash and bawl their eyes out. So what he's saying, he wants to see the suffering. It's not enough that he's going to harm as many kids as he can. He also wants to see the response, see the hurt, see the pain, see the tears. And he also suggesting that he hopes that those parents also unalive themselves from that grief. This is diabolical. So when you get a therapist, a doctor that says that something wrong with him and he has mental illness and psychosis, his thoughts are clear. His intentions are clear. His journal is really his writing coming to life. He said that if he had his pistol, that he would blow their brains out. He even did a drawing. You can check it out where he behind a female. And also what's known is that he tried to do up close, point blank range, close shots. So again, this is very disturbing. Let's go to another one. This is that page. Okay, it's not letting me show it. It's not letting me show, but you can check it out. It's on YouTube and Facebook. I did a short post with a few of the journal entries. So he talked a little bit about his choice of weaponry for the shooting, and his parents purchased the gun as a gift to him. So it was his gun. And this is something that he wrote in his journal. So now I'm mad because I want to do the shooting with a 9mm pistol, as they are effective for unaliving, but all I got is a puny 22 that I don't know where my, I don't know. The writing is really poor. But he does a drawing and he shows you the difference between the smaller 22 and the 9 miller. And he goes as far as to show the distance that the bullet would actually travel. So his mindset is the 9 millimeter would be more effective because it will go a further distance and cause more damage. And that's what he wanted. But he wasn't given that as a gift. He was given the smaller 22, which he was not happy about. So check out the drawing if you have time. I don't really want to talk about this subject, but I will just briefly state that he made a lot of references in conversation through text with a third party about harming birds, torturing birds, doing some video of things that he allegedly did to birds. I'm not going to talk about that. So you can read those journal entries and text messages if you choose to, but I'll just say that he's alleging that he did this harm to birds and that he really enjoyed harming them. It actually allegedly made him feel like he wanted to unalive other things. So that's something, if you want to read, it's there. There was another thing kind of closer to this that I do want to read. There was a text message, and it says, when I see a little kid about a year old or a little more, I want to pick them up and run off with them, then torture them before throwing them off a cliff. That kind of goes in line with what he was saying, that he wanted to unalive some other things, not just the animals. So this goes again to the thought process, to what they're looking forward to, the planning and wanting to do more and growing more aggressive about not just a small baby bird. Now you're saying now that you want to kidnap and harm, unalive a child, a small child. Also in the same page, it says, I will unalive any innocent. I don't care who I unalive. I will unalive who I feel like unaliving. Age, gender, I don't care. I don't care about innocent. Unaliving the innocent is the same as unaliving the bad. Is both satisfied. I think I'm going to wrap it up with this one. I don't think there's any other one that I just have to read. He was in communication with other kids his age, and these were types of conversations they were having, that they were communicating with. These are the discussions that they had. So just important to make sure you know who your kids are talking to, what kind of activity, what's the tone of the conversations, what's the subjects of the conversations, maybe checking their phone, just communicating with them to see their mindset. It's important. So this will be my last one just to highlight, but I posted a lot of them. I'm just not going to read them, and I'm definitely not going to read the one about the birds. The several ones about the birds. I'm just not comfortable doing that. This will be the last one. If I unalive myself, then people will not care about me and I will be forgotten within half a lifetime. That's why I'm going to cause the biggest school shooting of this decade and the only real one in Michigan. I'll read that one more time. If I unalive myself, then people will not care about me and I will be forgotten within half a lifetime. That's why I'm going to cause the biggest school shooting of this decade and the only real one in Michigan. The reason I wanted to end with this statement, because it says a lot about his mindset. So let's go here. Ethan Crumbley was 15 years old. His thought process is, if I unalive myself, then people will not care about me. Well, even if you did, people still were not going to care. Most people are not concerned so much about others and their doings. And if they don't know you, it's a hard chance that people are just going to care. Now, if you consider that if he had asked for help, if he had sought out some resources, some services, if he had went to therapy, if he had expressed to the school, teachers, any staff administrators that he needed help, that's when people get involved and they show they care. But people that don't know you, they're not going to show that they care about you. And it's not that they don't. They just don't know you, your circumstances. So in this instance, just thinking that not harming yourself is going to make it so that people care about you, it's just not true. People would have cared. People do care. And I would never want anybody, especially somebody that's young, to feel that nobody cares. He didn't unalive himself because he wasn't going to harm himself. He didn't want any harm to come to him. He had already planned in his mind that he was going to surrender because he didn't want to be harmed. This has nothing to do about people caring about him. This is self-preservation at its best. He was never going to harm himself, and he didn't want any harm to come to him. And the odd thing is, this is exactly what he did to others. He harmed them, he hurt them. And he did it because he wanted to do it. He did it because he enjoyed it. He wanted to see pain. He wanted to hurt as many people as he could. That was his mindset. He wanted to be known. I don't want to call him famous, but he wanted to be in history as the biggest mass shooter. And if he could get that title for the state of Michigan, those are his words. He wanted to be the biggest mass shooter in the last 10 years. That was his mindset. That was his goal. A low goal, for sure. A nothing goal, a goal that doesn't require any effort, any work. But that was his goal. It's what we have to deal with, everybody. We need to know the mindset. We need to be able to recognize the signs before it ever gets from writings, behaviors, and then somebody either giving them access or them having access to a weapon, especially something as powerful as a gun that they can cause this much harm. And it's common and it's happening almost every day now in the United States. That's too frequent. And it's not just juveniles. Let's see if I can get the statistics on mass shootings in the US up. From my knowledge, in other countries, they don't have the level of mass shootings that the United States have. Okay, so I just picked something pretty quickly. This is on a website called everytownresearch.org. And this is just their homepage. Mass shootings haunt our nation's collective conscience. Each breaking news alert floods the nation with grief, fear, and anger at the countless acts of preventable violence happening in schools, churches, parks, supermarkets, and other places where people are going about their everyday lives. Now, this is a true statement. This is somebody going about their everyday life. Just like these students, these high school students at Oxford High School, they were just going to school. And he got them at a vulnerable moment where they're just passing class, so they're all in the hallway. And in an instant, he comes out the bathroom with the ability to really spray as many kids as possible because he timed it for when they were passing class, when he knew a lot of students would be in the hallways. Okay? But it's not just at schools. It's in every ordinary part of your day. If you go to the grocery store, if you're going to some type of religious service, if you're at maybe a family picnic at the park, they're targeting areas that would have large groups of people, unsuspecting. If you're at a religious service, why would you think that would happen there? If you're at school, you're feeling fairly safe. This is a normal thing you're doing 5 days a week. You're not thinking that this is going to happen. If you're at the grocery store, what's the chance of that happening? You're running the grocery store for 20 minutes. But it's happening every day across the United States in cities all over. You know, let's keep reading. Since 2015, over 19,000 people have been shot and wounded or unalived in a mass shooting. So that's a period of not even full 8 years. So that would be over 2,000 people a year. That's a lot of people. In 22 alone, over 600 people were unalive, with over 2,700 wounded. Both the numbers of mass shooting incidents and the number of people shot in them have increased since 2015, reaching a high of 686 mass shooting incidents in 2021. So that's definitely more than one a day. That's almost 2 a day, 2 mass shootings a day in the United States. Right. Why do you guys think that there's more mass shootings? Interesting question, right? Let's just think about it. Do you think people are more unhappy where they are in life? Do you think it's more socioeconomic? People are struggling, people are having hard time, difficulties. They're not able to move ahead in life. They feel stuck. They feel trapped. You think it's mental health? Think there's no support there for people that are having issues? So instead of talking to someone about what's going on, they turn to violent acts. What else? What else could it be? Because it's happening in schools. Do you think it's bullying? You think it's some levels of depression in um, juveniles? Think people are stressed more, the way they manage stress, or the inability to manage stress and pressures? Do you think that there's more poverty, or people used to be able to rise out of it, but they're not able to? You think people are carrying more debt? Think that the high rate of divorce, where families are separating, you don't have any more uh, concentrated mother and father or two-parent households? Because even through divorce, you separate. You also have to separate resources, income. Could be a lot of reasons, right? That being said, sometimes when you have those many different triggers, you're going to look at that on the flip side. If you have easier triggers, you will have more chances or more possibilities where you will see that number for mass shootings go up, right? So, what do you think we can do about that? No. How do you find it? How do you assess it? How do you try to provide services, resources to reduce that number? There's some things we can do. More mental health, more availability, maybe more free services, maybe more employment opportunities, educational opportunities, so people can advance in their careers or pick up a new career. Paying people more money, right? If you pay them more money, maybe that will ease some of the stress, some of the debt they have. Maybe allowing people to have telework where they can split their days with home and work so they're not always in the office. Maybe bringing back more programs in schools that aren't so focused on core classes, more programs like art, music, computers, home economics. Those are also essential to the development. So kids aren't feeling so much stress and pressure. What about testing, right? They have all these tests now, all these standardized tests, all these pressures to perform on top of going to school 5 days a week, about 7 hours a day, right? What else? What else can we do? Maybe have some more community type programs like the Boys and Girls Club, Big Brother, Big Sister, recreational activities, parks, programs that are geared towards getting them when they're younger, right? Maybe summer internships, summer opportunities. We all have to think about ways that we can give of ourselves, maybe volunteering some time. Um, People that do have backgrounds, that do have specializations, volunteering some of that time to give back because we don't want to keep coming into the conversation after something has happened. We want to be proactive, not so much reactive to crime. Because something like this, it appears to be preventative, right? It's all of these comments about if this had happened, if the administrator checked his backpack, if the parents took him home from school, if the teacher, you know, uh, was able to, take him to the principal and press that, he could not return to her class or his class. It's a lot of ifs. If this person had did this, if this person had done that, then this could have been a different result. That could be true. It could not be true. Because if a person is determined, if they're steadfast, these are his thoughts. These are not my thoughts. This is not my opinion. These are his thoughts. What he wrote, what he said, he felt. And these are leading up, weeks leading up, days leading up. The day of the shooting, his parents were at the school. His parents could have took him, but they didn't. Maybe somebody could have possibly found a gun. Maybe you could say if there were metal detectors, maybe they would have found the gun through a search. Maybe if they had security, maybe security patted the students down and checked inside their backpacks. It could be so many maybes. But we have to figure out a way to be more proactive in many areas. Mental health is a big area for adults and juveniles or children, right? We don't want to see kids isolated, alone, um, not having interactions, not having anxiety when they, interact with other kids, sitting in the classroom. We want to be inclusive. We don't want to see bullying. And we all have to make an effort. If we see something, we do something, we say something. And it starts with you and me. We have to do everything we can to make the necessary changes. And some of these changes are small because what I can say, what I can happily say, it would have been more unaliving if administrators and teachers did not step in and respond, if those students were not prepared. Not because Ethan Crumbley didn't want that. Everybody else responded, and that saved a lot of lives. Law enforcement coming and immediately engaging Mr. Crumbley, and in his mindset, he didn't want to be harmed. He was going to surrender. Not all shooters want to surrender. They're okay with being unalive because they don't want to go through this process. They don't want to have their picture out there and they have to go to court. And they have to face all of this, face these victims, face their families. Now, he wanted the families to suffer. He wanted to see the families cry, see their grief, as if it was going to be an enjoyable process for him to see that. Now, maybe he will have regrets later and feel differently, but that was his mindset. So, just as him and others out there have this mindset, have these thoughts, are premeditating, are planning, we have to also be working hard on the opposite side for prevention to try to reduce the damage, the potential. So with that being said, I will follow up once Mr. Crumbley is sentenced. And I do plan on doing an update for his parents and what's going on with them, because they've taken their cases to the Supreme Court to try to reduce the charges from involuntary manslaughter, probably to maybe just abuse or neglecting their son, something like that. So I'll do a separate video for that. So I want to thank you for checking this video out. I hope you check out some of my other videos, and let's just keep doing the work. Let's stay committed. Let's keep working hard. Let's keep supporting law enforcement. Let's keep supporting our great teachers across this country that's at the forefront, at the front of the line, along with administrators, keeping our kids safe, teaching them despite all of these issues and impediments and dangerous times and stressful times, and doing their best. Let's support them. Let's thank them. Let's find ways to help infuse positivity, positive energy into the schools and other areas, because we need that. Let's connect on that level, right? So again, thank you for checking out this video. Please put your ideas in the comments. I read the comments. I respond to comments. Let me know if you have any ideas of things that we can do, ways that we can change, things we can improve. I'm here for it. I'm here for the work. I want to encourage you to do the work. Find ways that you can volunteer, that you can give back time, if it's a donation of money, if it's volunteering your time, if you have a specialty, making that known, offering that to the schools, any speaking engagements that you can, support the school system, volunteering with law enforcement, anything, to have a community approach to crime prevention, to policing. Okay. So thank you again. Check out some of the other videos. I hope to see you soon in a future video. Thank you, all my friends. Be safe, be smart, be savvy. Take care. Thank you. Okay. Take care. Be well.